What is up, everyone? I'm Joey Morin, and welcome back to How I Draw, a drawing series where I'll teach you tips, tricks, and drawing hacks, and before long, you'll be showing me how well you draw. And so, without further delay, let's begin episode 3 of How I Draw. Okay, so before we start, I wanted to go over the tools that I use in Gimp, the software that I use for my drawing. And you can get that software for free at gimp.org. Okay, and here are the tools that I use. Okay, before I talk about the tools, I wanted to point out that I actually use one layer. Almost every visual design software out there has layers involved, where you can start with your sketching, add the color layer, or underneath or above, you can choose where your layers are and build it up that way. But for those who are watching with a sketch pad and a pencil, you have no way of making those layers. You have to do them manually. And so I'm using one layer, 100% opacity with my pen. But I use the pressure sensitivity to control my opacity. And you do that by making sure that your tablet and stylus is configured to the software. And I'll leave a link in the description that shows how to do that from another channel that I use for myself. Okay, so here are the tools. On the left here, we got all these, these ones up here are just your cutting tools. And then you have down here, you can like change the size, rotate, work in perspective. Then you have your airbrush tool, your eraser tool, paintbrush, pencil. These are the main ones that I guess that you would use for drawing. But I use the paintbrush. I find that it has the best response to my style, where I like to come in light. And for example, if I pick this one here, that would be going against what I'm teaching you. I don't want a hard line. I want soft, scratchy marks to begin with. And so that's why I pick one that's something like this, where there is a black dot, but it's faded and it's it's soft around the edges, so that I can come in and just make some light, soft marks. Okay, and then so that's the tools that I have and the brush tips that I use. And like I said, I work with one layer and I work with 100% opacity on my brush tip, so that way I have the same limitations as someone who's not. Now, we were working on the wolf in the last couple of episodes and starting to piece together. We put together his eye and start to build up some texture there. But now we're going to work on the fur. And but just in case you're not up to speed and you're just joining us now, I highly recommend you go back to watch episode 1 and 2, where I explain my theories and my strategies. And then you can take those. You want to be able to remember. You're going to make those marks, scratchy marks, just to kind of build up those, those angles. You're going to form the angles, and then as you get those angles formed, you're going to form those angles into shapes and multiple angles. Like you get the box part, and then you start rounding it by adding more angles, and then you can start coming in with the color and the shade and everything you need. And don't forget to look back and forth between your subject matter and your canvas, just back and forth, making sure that those little shapes that you're piecing together like a puzzle are matching the image. Back and forth. Some tricks that I'm showing you. And we'll move forward with the wolf next. Alright, so the first thing you want to do is you want to look up closely at the wolf's fur pattern. So we're going to start working on the fur underneath the eye, just the white patch there. And so what we'll do is we'll start by layer, we're going to build up this fur texture within this section. So with just a very light touch, I'm just going to make little tick marks, scratches, to form a base layer of just some texture, okay? Pieces that come together like little tufts of fur that are making a random pattern. And if you look, I'm just making little scratches and I'm kind of fanning them out, starting going horizontal at the top, and then as I come down, fanning it down a bit to follow the shape of the face. And then I want to come back and I want to do some like darker marks, kind of following the lines that I've started. And including some hatching. Hatching meaning like you have your one texture going one way, and then you just come in on a slight angle and just make like a hatch mark, and it creates little tufts that you'll be able to highlight, little tufts of fur that you'll be able to highlight moving forward. So what I'll do now is I'll come in with, I'll finish up darkening here and there, little pieces, little texture marks, okay? Then I'll come in with some light color, a dusting of like some brown. I'm just gonna, add some brown to the base of that. Kind of deepen the color there. This is the bottom layer, okay? This is what you're going to accentuate this layer now. You're going to come in with, if you're working with, color pastels, the chalk pastels, you can come over top with a lighter one and start ticking in, accentuate all these little tufts of fur that we've created with this hatching and color. Just little ticks, little marks of white or light, like you pick like a light beige if you like. And I chose white, but I'm just pressing very lightly so I can still see some of that color through underneath. Continuing on, accentuating all the center pieces, like you got the hatching marks that you've made. Now you're going to accentuate inside the pattern, like just little ticks, little tufts of fur, just kind of coloring in the in-betweens. And just little random ticks, okay? Don't look for a uniform pattern. Once we get all that kind of filled in, and a couple of random tufts in other spots, and just kind of piecing it all together like one pattern of fur. And then you come back in with the white, and just, I would use like if you're working with pencil, I would use like a light colored pencil and just on its side, just give it a light dusting, a light shading over top. Just to kind of brighten it up, because it is white. That section of fur is white, so you want to make sure that it is light enough, but you want some of that texture that you just built up to show through. And now we can start working on the eye, darkening in what we have there. Some dark edges, and don't worry about your fur not touching the edge of the eye. You can come in with your white, and you can just, or your light highlight, and just come in and just connect it. Little tufts connecting it. You want to start widening the eye. You want to work on that under eyelid. It's got a bit of a three-dimensional feel to it, so you just gotta shade in on either side and leave a bit of gray highlight showing it, so that when it's zoomed out, it'll look more like black, but it'll have like some depth to it. It'll have that little hint of gray highlight. Once we start to get that figured out, then we move on to the eye, the pupil of the eye, and start widening. Maybe I'm noticing that this eye could be a little wider, so I start fixing that. And as we come along, doing pretty good. Come in with the color now. I picked like a goldish orange as a base color, and then you come in with your highlights and brighten it up again. But you want to start with the base color. Follow the image. Make your mental snapshots back and forth. If you notice there's some parts that could be darker, then do that. And of course, coming around the bottom with that darker brown, just to kind of round it, make it more realistic. Blending from light to dark. Okay, and then as you notice that it gets kind of light towards where the pupil is, so we're gonna brighten it up in there, and then we're gonna redraw that pupil, and it's gonna make the eye pop a lot better. And after we've figured out the nice shading, we're just gonna come in and just very light, making very light marks to kind of deepen that under eyelid again. And then add in some little highlights. This is the rewarding time. I know I said in my previous video to try and save it, but I couldn't resist, so I just thought I would just add in those. And then you can start to just use the same technique you use under the eye for the fur, and start to patch in some of that top fur above the eye. Little ticks. And if you have to, come in with the darker color and start making more hatchings, more little scratches and hatches that kind of build a bottom texture. then come back in with the lighter highlights and accentuate some of that fur. And there you have it. That's what we have for the wolf so far. And once we darken in the fur around that lower patch of white fur, you'll see that it'll be a lot brighter than it appears right now. Piece by piece, fill in the different patches of colored fur, and it'll all come together. And that's where we'll end the episode for today. And the next episode, I'll do some offline fur patterns to kind of catch this wolf up a bit, and but I'll record it and show you in a time lapse, and then I can talk a bit about it, just so we can move along and get some more progress. And I wanted to invite you to follow me on Facebook at Joey Morin Visual Design, and that way you can connect with me and show me some of your progress. Show me some of your artwork that you've been drawing. And it's easy enough. You just send me a private message, and I'll select a few, and I'll do a quick talk about what I noticed about it, and maybe even give you some positive feedback, something that you can work with to improve your drawings. And other people can view those little snippets, those little behind the scenes clips that will be exclusive to the Facebook page. So follow me there, and don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel so that you'll know when the next episodes are coming up. Thanks for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed my tips and tricks today. And check out episode 1 and 2. They're very informative and help bring together what I've just done in this episode, and ties it all in really nicely. So, I'm Joey Morin. This is How I Draw. And until next time, be good.